Right, for the rest of this podcast, it's a great privilege to have Paul Giblin. Now, you've been here a few times before, and we've done different interviews on the West Highland Way, especially as a 3-time winner, even though I don't think I've interviewed you since your last one.
No, I was just boring by that point.
I know. That's right,
It's like I want to speak to him again.
Yeah, but obviously this one we wanted to centre on your challenge that you just finished with your team over the last weekend. But before we get on to that, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your year, how your own running's gone this year in 2018.
It's been a mixed year for me. I've travelled a lot again this year. I really focused around the Western States in June, towards the end of June. I think it was the same day as West Highland Way again. Was a kind of key race for me again. I didn't race early on. First race I think was April, I think. Yeah, that was the first big race I did. I went back out to Croatia to do the 100 miles of Istria race that I'd done the year before. So that was a fun race again this year. And it was my first Ultra Trail World Tour win as well, so I had a good time out there. It was a kind of last minute decision to go and do the race because I'd committed to something else in the US just before Western States as well, but the opportunity came up and it felt like I wanted to go out there and race. I had a bit of a challenging year, like personally, at the start of the year, so I probably wasn't in a good place for a while, and I kind of just wanted to get my head down, train for a bit and then get back out there and race. So the year started pretty well. I then went, I think it was like 2 weeks after, maybe 3 at the most, I raced Canyons 100k, which is on the Western States course. You basically go up the course partly, come back down again, then you go do the second part of the course and back up again. It's quite tough. It's like through the canyon section of Western States, which is probably the toughest part of the race, so I was quite keen to do it anyway, even though like I certainly didn't feel fresh going into that. And
was that a few months before Western States? Or what?
Yeah, it must have been maybe about 6 or 7 weeks before Western States.
Right.
So
you got enough time to recover from that before?
Yeah, I kind of hoped. It's one of those races that, like the halfway point, there's a 50k and it stops, so you run past the finish line, and at that point I'm thinking, I should have just signed up for the 50k. Why did I think this is a good idea? But I'd started, so I finished, which was fine. So then I usually do a race up in Reno before Western States, but because I'd done that, I decided to give it a miss this year, and it kind of worked out okay. So then the focus was Western States. I had a good time there. I had some good people coming crew for me, some friends. John was over, my family were there. Giff, another guy, a coach from the US, came down, so we had a real blast on the course. It was fun. It was a hot year, so yeah, I had some challenges. I wasn't like delighted with my position this year again, so I'll probably be back again. But
top 10 though, wasn't it?
Top 10, yeah. So
and top 10 means that you get a place every next year, do you? So you're just going to keep going until you...
I don't know, like I did have it in my head, if I'd finished outside the top 10 this year, I was maybe just going to move on to something else, but when you get that opportunity to go back and do it again and maybe have the race that I know I'm capable of, then it kind of draws me back.
Now, another big part of your year and your working life is your coaching, and just tell us a little bit about that and how it's going, because I must admit I've interviewed a few people for these podcasts and a good number of them have been coached by you, and they're certainly full of praise and help that you give them. So just tell us a little bit about how that's going. It's
been another incredible year. I'm at the point that it's difficult to take more people on, just because it's quite time consuming. People just think that, you know, I'm just writing training plans and I'm just bashing them out, and I've got some library that I'm just pushing out these training plans all the time, but it's quite involved for me, because I feel it's the only way I can really do it properly is to take some time and actually write, you know, individual plans. So I don't think the coaching business has been going for about 4 years this year. In fact, so it's been a long time, and in the 4 years I've never had a week off of coaching, so it happens all the time. It happens through Christmas. I try and say to people at Christmas, just do your own thing, but people still want some plans at Christmas time, so just give me a break, please. No, it's been amazing. Just managed to build like a really great community, like and it's not just me, it's not about me. Like people start connecting with each other and helping each other and supporting each other, and there's like a really, really positive feeling around it, and people want to be part of it, and it's been incredible. And even, I mean, I know we'll talk about the event, but even people that come out to support the event, you know, they're not necessarily coached athletes, and I don't want it to feel like it's some exclusive club, because it's not. We're kind of out to help people get the best out of themselves. So it's been amazing. I learn a lot from coaching. I learn all the time, and sometimes I make mistakes, and sometimes I get as much back from people as they get from me. So it's rewarding. It's hard work, but it's what I've chosen to do, and it does give me some flexibility to obviously travel and stuff as well. So yeah, it's been good.
Just one small thing. When I was chatting to someone on Saturday, I was asking him, he asked me what it's called pylon.
Yeah.
Now, I seem to remember talking to you once before, I don't know if I'm right, but was there something to do with when you were at university, you used to collect or pylons? That
No.
Where's that from?
No. I used to do some music production stuff when I was younger, some DJing and some own stuff in the studio and whatever, and the name kind of came out of that, and then it disappeared for a while.
Okay.
And then it was way back when Twitter was really early. I was quite early on Twitter. A friend had persuaded me. Yeah, exactly. A friend had suggested I go on it, and I'd had a difficult time again with a girlfriend and a breakup and everything, and he persuaded me to go on Twitter. I kind of used that as a Twitter handle, but I felt he was trying to say I need to put myself out there a bit more, and it kind of it grew from there, and I think that's kind of shaped what Pyllon has become as the coaching side of things and everything else, and it is about connecting people and trying to get the best out of people, and people not being scared to have conversations and to take risks and to do difficult things. So I had some conversations a few years ago when we kind of branded the business with some great guys in Edinburgh, and we talked about, you know, you could call it, I don't know, performance coaching or something else, you know, but people had already connected it to me, and it felt like it was, and I was at the heart of it, so it felt like the right thing to keep it. And automatically people I didn't create Team Pyllon, you know, people start doing that themselves, and that's I can't go against that. That's just amazing when people are starting to talk about you that way, and it was amazing to see people and talk to people at the weekend there, and everybody getting involved and supporting us. So
and you got all the branding now, haven't you? All the sweatshirts, and the hats, and everything else. That's right. Okay, well that leads on pretty well then to the challenge. So what gave you the idea of doing this Pyllon Endeavour?
I've done a number of kind of winter challenges on my own in the past, and they're
your famous eyeball one where you almost frozen eyeballs.
They're quite personal, you know. They're quite. It's about me, and it's about how much I can push myself, and what I'm hoping to get out of it on a personal level. And this time, I really wanted to see if I could involve other people and see what we could really create. I'm really keen to try and create this community of like-minded people and support each other, and this just felt like potentially a really nice way to do it, and to get some great people together and all work together to try and achieve something. And it was a running challenge ultimately, but it didn't really, that wasn't the focus in the end really for us. It became this project about people opening up and people having conversations about difficult times, and really sharing those moments with each other, and creating this kind of safe space for people to have these conversations. And that part of it was just, we managed to do a really great job on that, and got so many people talking, and I work with so many athletes, and I know there are so many issues out there. I see it all the time. People have mental health issues, or I mean, it doesn't have to be as serious as a classified mental health issue, but we all go through these difficult times, and I see it quite a lot. And maybe I'm in a fortunate position or something, that maybe I'm removed enough from like the family stresses or something sometimes, and there's that trust element, so I get to see it quite a lot, and I kind of feel as a coach it's my responsibility to try and put the message out there that it's okay to feel like that, and things can get better if you start to have those conversations. And because I've seen it as well when people don't talk, and then all of a sudden you hear these terrible stories of things that have happened, and that's difficult for me to take individually then, because I think maybe I've not done my job then, maybe I'm not the right person to speak to for everyone, or for everyone that I coach, because they've got other friends in their life and other places to go. But I feel I've got a responsibility to try and help people get the best out of themselves and not to feel alone and isolated. So
yeah. But you found as well, Paul, that if you're out for say a 3, 4, 5 hour run with people, you know, it's amazing the depth of conversations you have, isn't it? Because you tend to talk about, you know, the everyday stuff, and then as the run goes on, you know, I don't know about you, find you end up talking about some really interesting and quite deep stuff, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's,
and it's non-threatening somehow, isn't it? Because you're not face to face talking like we are now. You're looking around, and you're able to chat more. Yeah,
that's right. And like I spend a lot of time running on my own, but I do run with people sometimes, and like you say, people do kind of open up a little bit, and that's one of the amazing things about our sport, I think, because it kind of strips away some of those barriers. I think, and you see that in races as well. You know, like people, you really see the person inside. You know, and they've been stripped of everything. That's, you know, they're miserable, they've been sick, and they don't know if they can go on. You see some really raw emotions in, which is it's something that's always kept me kind of involved in the sport, and just feeling that there's more to it than just running and performances and doing well in races and completing events or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so think about the challenge. You wanted to do something as a team and sort of support that. Was it always going to be the West Highland Way? Because obviously that's very precious to you and very special to you.
Yeah. We didn't talk about anywhere else.
Okay.
I didn't want to. You know, other people have gone and done winter West Highland Ways and all that kind of stuff, but I just felt there was a bigger opportunity, and the West Highland Way, particularly with me being away a lot, I'm away more than I'm home. This year I'll probably be home for maybe 2 months out of the 12 or something. So it's kind of nice. It feels like I'm coming. It's like a spiritual home. Yeah. And I know that sounds a bit kind of, I don't know. It kind of feels like that sometimes. And I don't, like, I've run on it hundreds and hundreds of times, obviously. And you can get to the point you maybe bored of sections, but it just felt like we were going to the right place, and I think a lot of people around here feel the same way.
And the up and down, did that come quite quickly, or because obviously you could have just gone one way and gone for 12 hours or something, but why up and down? It
just felt right. It just, like, this trying to do something in a day, and you know, these films that have been out about 100 miles, it's about living your life in 24 hours and stuff. There's something around that 24 hours, and it gave the people involved an opportunity to come together for that whole day and run through the night, and, you know, like almost like the darkness into light a little bit, and having these conversations. So it just felt like the right thing quite early on.
Yeah, and it was always, you know, to do it in 24 hours was always going to be a massive challenge. I was talking to someone today actually, and they said, "Do you realise that it's 7:30 pace?" Yeah. Which, when you put it, like most of us, you know, we'd go for if we went for a steady run 8, 9, 10 miles and did it in 7:30 pace, we'd feel it, wouldn't we? Yeah. You know, for most of it, I know you guys were probably faster than that, but still, to aim to average 7:30 for the whole thing is some challenge.
Yeah. I mean, even like they put out a competition on social media about, you know, predicting the time and stuff. And it was like, anybody who's never run the West Highland Way, people are saying 21 hours and 22 and stuff. And there's only people that have run it maybe a couple of times as well. They're like, it's going to be tight, you know. And it was like, I wanted it to be ambitious. I didn't want to do something that was easy. And we could have said, we'll try and do it under 30 hours, or we'll do it in 25, or made up something else. But we always knew, like, when I had the idea, like when I discussed it with other people, there was like, that's, you know, there's no room for error in that. And there wasn't, and we had some errors, and that's how it turned out. But I guess in a lot of ways it probably turned out for the best. You know, I think if we'd have finished, say, an hour and a half under the 24 hours or whatever it was, people would think, well, there's 8 really strong runners running the West Highland Way, it's fine, it's not that difficult. But to run that kind of pace in winter on the West Highland Way, and I know we had great weather, but it's a rough course, some of it. And
I think it's the darkness as well, isn't it? Because you started at 4, so within an hour, or even straight away, I would imagine, head torches on. And then it didn't get light until, I would imagine, well after 8, half 8. So the vast majority of it was in the dark, wasn't it? I think when you're running at that pace, that's again a big challenge, isn't it?
So you're basically doing a whole West Highland Way in the dark. Plus more than that, in fact. Right. So it was maybe it was coming into Glencoe on the way back that we started. The sun was up.
Okay.
So it was tough.
Okay. So you had the idea, you had the track. So why the runners that you chose? How did that work out? Who joined the team?
There was there was no long process about who we were going to have or whatever. I had some runners in mind that I was confident they could run that kind of pace, and they had the experience and ability to do that. It was a difficult one for me in that I didn't want it to feel like it was really exclusive, and I didn't want people to feel they couldn't be part of it. But I had to make the decision that if we were going to set out to try and do it 24 hours and we were going to keep the numbers relatively small, no more than 8, then those were the runners that I wanted to be there. For different reasons, they've all got different strengths, and maybe some are slightly quicker than others on shorter distances and that kind of stuff, but it was just a good group of people. Just from the conversations that I have every week with them and coaching, and I know they would get behind it and support it and care about what we were doing, and that's not to say that anybody who never got picked wouldn't do that either, It was never. I would imagine you could have had 2 or 3 teams if you wanted to. Easy, and I don't know where it'll end up. I think it might be something we go back to again, and we'll talk about that, and we'll see who's the right fit for it at that time as well. So it turns out we picked great people, and it was a real great mix of people. Everybody just gets on, and everybody supported each other, and we all pushed really hard, and not just on the event itself, but everybody supported with all the stuff we were trying to do on social media and having these conversations. So it was pretty incredible. And you had certain rules, didn't you, in a sense? You wanted everyone to do at least 3 legs, and they all had to end up running over a marathon distance. So you had that in mind. Yeah, pretty much. I wanted, if you're going to do something like this, then I wanted something around it that somebody else could go and replicate it if they want to. So you set the bar. Maybe. And maybe other teams will want to go and try and break it some other time, and I'm fine with that, and it's a good thing. It just felt like it was a kind of fresher idea to do on the course that we all know so well and love so much. So. Okay, just give us a sense then of how the day went. From I assume everyone met at the start, did they? All 8 of you? 7 of us at the start,
right?
And one was coming from Edinburgh and from work, so we didn't meet until later on. Right. But, 7 of us at the start. It was kind of low key at the start. A few people came out and supported us at the start. It's an awkward time. You don't know when the best time is to do it, but we kind of wanted to see if we could finish when it was light and people might come out on the Saturday to see us. And that was a main part of that decision, I think. I think if you're absolutely going for a record, then you maybe pick a slightly different time. I don't know how that would work necessarily, but we started really well. We were lucky with the weather. We kind of hoped that the weather was going to be good, and at the start it was great. It wasn't too cold, and Rob started us off shorts and t-shirt and flying through Mulgai, which was great. And by the time we got to the beech tree, in fact, it was getting dark there, so it was head torches on, and it was pretty much head torches on until Glencoe on the way back. So everybody, we had set out a plan, like a rough plan, which we published online actually, just to give people an idea of what we're doing. But and it was great having the tracker as well, because obviously loads of us were following it really closely. And it was great having the plan and the tracker, and you could see, you were always ahead for quite a while, weren't you? And creeping ahead. I think that's like, from all the big races that have live trackers and stuff, what we're all like. We all track it, and it becomes entertaining. Like, it does. Even people that are not that involved in running, that know somebody, end up. And I think that's the key. If you know someone, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? You get really loosen them up. So we kind of hoped that would be the case, and people would follow. So we wanted to try and do that, and be quite open about what we're trying to achieve as well, and let people try and follow, and maybe come out on the course and see us, or maybe run for a section or something. So. We were quite open about that. The timings themselves were just like guidelines for us, even though it probably felt more than that when you were actually in it. You wanted to try and hit that time, even though some of them probably weren't that achievable, really. Like, which you realise when you're in the middle of. You're like, this is never a 50-minute section. We probably, there's some things we would change, and we would learn from this one if we were going to go and do it again. So it was amazing. So. On the way out, we started building some time against the plan, so we were up, and it's difficult just to keep track of everything, because you think you're going to have a time to chat to people, but you're really, we didn't stop at all. You're handing over the GPS, and it was as quick as we could possibly be, and then you had a bum bag, did you? Just to pass it over and get it on again, and then you're jumping in vans and cars to go to the next one. It was just like non-stop. So maybe we could have communicated some of that a little bit better, potentially. So we built up some time until towards the end of the course really, and then we had some big issues around Kynaston, which was a shame. It was Graham running that leg, and they're doing some building work there, which was really difficult.
In Kynaston itself?
Coming out of Kynaston.
Oh, I thought it was later on. Lunderborough, there was issues.
No, there was Kynaston was the main one.
Oh, was it? Oh, right.
So they're putting in some kind of dam or something there.
Oh, nice.
So Graham basically found himself on a building site. And when you've just got a head torch on, you just can't see where it is at all. So he eventually, luckily, he had a phone signal for a bit, and he could go on the tracker and work out where he was. So that cost us, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 minutes.
Right.
So when he finished, James was going to be running it on the way back. He had a long conversation with James about what it was. But when you're coming back the other way, it's
totally different.
It's totally different.
Yeah.
So James had the same
got stuck as well.
So we had a few of those which cost us, and when you look at the timings, you know, that cost us easily probably 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Rob had a bit of an issue with the fog around Braveheart car park, which has changed now. You know, they've made the car park bigger.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how he got lost, to be honest.
I know.
But so we ended up losing that kind of time, which is a shame. So then we were chasing, we were down the whole time.
And you'd also made the decision not to finish at the leisure centre, didn't you?
Yeah, I blame the race organisers for that, to be honest. Like it was a last minute decision. We were going to just go to the leisure centre. When I say last minute, I mean the day before we made that decision. And because the race itself has changed now, we didn't want to do it, and then some really kind person on social media said you didn't actually do the West Highland Way, you know. So like before we could have argued, well, that's the race route and we're following the race route, but because you guys have moved that now,
you're blaming us, like.
We felt we had to go to the end anyway. So it was one of those things, and we never for a minute. I don't think you think it's going to be that tight in the end, but yeah, when you think about that, that's probably an extra mile, maybe less.
Well, there and back, definitely. Because to where we're going to finish is the Never Centre, but you went actually into the centre, didn't you?
Went right into
so I think that's further.
Yeah, it is,
So I think you're talking about at least say 3/4 of a mile, so that's a mile and a half.
Well, at least if anybody goes to do it again, they've got to go to the end.
That's right. But you actually made it. I think I was checking before I went to bed or when I got up, whatever, and I saw a tweet that you were there in 11 hours 47.
Yeah, we were still okay. Although then we had James going back, and we had some issues at Endeavour. It was closed as well, just to get crews up there. And then James had his issue too, so we started kind of losing time by the time I picked up at the Devil's Staircase, I think we were down, and then we started gaining time back again. But you're always under pressure then, and you think it's just 2 minutes, but then it creeps to 4 and 10 and 20, and then you are really chasing things, you know. But yeah, we got super close towards the end. The guys were just incredible. They just they gave everything to each leg, and you can't ask for any more. You know, it's just.
Well, I must admit, we came out, Katrina and myself, to Balmhall and ran out, and we saw you coming on the beach section, and you were really pushing hard. And then we stopped 3 or 4 times then to see different runners, and each time we saw somebody, they were giving it everything. And I think the thing that struck me, Paul, was that often ultra running is a very individual sport, isn't it? You're on your own, and it's your challenge. Whereas you just really sense that the whole group were really wanting to do it for each other. And I was chatting to Marco after his leg, and he said he really felt the pressure because everyone else was running really well, so he couldn't mess it up. And presumably everyone felt like that, didn't they?
Absolutely. I mean, that was the really great thing about it, because like you say, it's quite an individual sport, and you're pushing yourself normally and you're trying to compete, but we all came together, and everybody that was there was just like really encouraging. I want you to do the best you can, and you, as a competitive athlete, you take some of that pressure on as well. You know, you're like, I don't want to let the team down here. I want to do my absolute best, and so in a lot of ways it brought out the best in people.
Definitely.
It was amazing.
And near the end, you tried to maximise it by shortening some of the legs, didn't you? Because I think Marco was going to run to Drimmen, but he stopped earlier, didn't he? And someone else took over, and just to give yourself a chance, really, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was a kind of last-minute decision. We had the idea that I was going to run the last leg with Bob, and then I thought it would be probably better if we split that into 2, so you can absolutely empty yourself in 5k, you know. And then I can't remember, I think I was driving, they made a decision to cut Marco's into 3 as well, which was the right thing to do, and if we were planning it again, we'd maybe have that in a plan as an alternative if we absolutely had to, but we just wanted to complete the story for everyone, you know, and give our absolute all. And like James, as an example, there he'd finished his legs, but you know he picked up another one just to run as hard as he could. That must have been
quite tough, wasn't it? Thinking I've finished my legs now and I can relax, and then all right, you've got to run another 5k.
But it wasn't even like you've got to. It was just like, right, okay, this is a team thing. We know what we need to do, and we're going to do it. And it was tough. It was tough getting to the end and knowing we were just running out of time. But
and you finished officially in 24 hours and 6 minutes, was it?
I think it was 6. It certainly wasn't any more than that. I think maybe slightly below, but
so it was pretty close, wasn't it? When you think of, you know, particularly over that distance and over that time, to be that close.
I know, it's just.
I think in some ways I think it's good because it'll give you a incentive to go back and, try it again.
I mean, it's going to be a more compelling story when we go back next year, if that's what we choose to do.
I was thinking of your story of the West Highland Way, because remember your West you missed it by seconds, didn't you? And what time was that?
I can't remember.
It was just over 18 hours, I think, wasn't it? But you were literally 19 or something. It was literally seconds though, wasn't it? And then you came back and smashed it, so that was good.
Exactly. So that's the plan.
Definitely. So tell us a little bit then about the aims of the challenge was to raise awareness of mental health. Did you feel that was fulfilled in the race? And just tell us a little bit about how you felt that went.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of the work was done before the actual event, and that we tried to get some really good content out there. You know, we had some really great blogs from some people that I work with, or friends, and people like Graham, who actually ran as well, who was quite open and willing to talk about the challenges he's had from a mental health perspective. And I think it was so powerful for us, because we were there and we were getting the comments back, and we were getting private messages from people saying, you know, we really appreciate this, and I've had issues for such a long period and I've never really been able to talk about it, and I just think you guys are all great runners and you just get on with things and life's great and everything. So we've had, like, each of us individually, we've had, I don't know, 2 dozen conversations with different people about mental health and how opening up and having conversations has really helped them. And then on the event itself, we just had so many people come up to us and come out to support us, and I had conversations with people after the event as well, and they opened up to me about some really huge things that had happened in their life, and difficult things that had happened in their life, and thanked us for what we were doing. And it was just, it's overwhelming, you know, and too much of it is brushed under the carpet. And I think what we did, the value in what we did, is around saying it's okay for people to have these conversations, and it's okay not to feel okay. And I think on that side of things we absolutely nailed it, and we've done a great job, and I'm so proud of everybody who got involved and supported us and ran for us and crewed for us, and even just, like, to me, I know we raised a lot of money in the end. We were over £10,000.
Oh, is it? Wow,
it's just unbelievable.
Well, the last I looked, it was 9.3, so it's got up over 10
like,
now.
I don't know, 10.2 or something.
Because you started with about £1,000 aim, didn't you?
Yeah. So the money was important, and it was the right charity that we'd chosen. We felt for Scotland. It was local, and they do a great job helping people. But it was never a key focus for me, the money side of it. Although to be able to give people an opportunity to feel like they're taking part and to give something back was huge, and you can see that with the numbers. Like 10,000 is, and we basically did that in less than 2 weeks. People just got behind it.
And if it was one person giving £10,000, that would obviously be the same money. But the fact is, there's hundreds of people who gave 10, 20, 30 pounds. You know, most of them are small donations, aren't they? And I think that's better in some ways, because that shows there's the amount of people involved.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not about the value of that donation, you know, the monetary value to me, and like a Facebook share or a comment was as valuable to me as the actual donation was. So it was phenomenal, and I do have to say thanks to everyone who did donate. It was just, it's going to make a big difference for Sam H, I think, and they were extremely grateful. And I don't know if you read the blog that they had written.
Yes, I did. Yes,
and he absolutely nailed
it, didn't he?
Was
he there at the finish?
Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
right. Yeah, that was the chief executive, wasn't it?
And he followed around like the last part of the course.
Right.
He was out and about and watching it. So he absolutely nailed what we were trying to do. Which is great. So it's been a whirlwind.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I meant to put this on earlier, but I only put it on about an hour ago on Facebook just to get a few questions. So you're happy just to answer some of these? And it's a bit of a mixture of things as well. So you might get a variety of questions. So Wilson Dornan wanted to know, can I ask you, have you always been vegan? Or did it come after you started running? And there's a few people actually asking about your diet and how things go with that.
Yep. This question comes up quite a bit, really. I think I've probably been vegan for about 8 years, pretty much when I started performing well in my running. I had changed my diet. I'm not saying change your diet and you'll run well, it's nothing to do with that at all, but yeah, I just got very focused on everything that I could do to try and help myself train better and recover better and race better, so that was part of it. It wasn't a huge step for me. I'd been vegetarian for a long time before that, so it wasn't like it was it feels big to a lot of people, you know, going from being a normal diet to a vegan diet or something, but it wasn't a huge step for me. I just felt that I could recover more quickly so I could train better and ultimately I could race better. And then there's so many other benefits around being plant-based, and for me now personally, you know, I don't think I would be comfortable with the environmental impact and everything else around, you know, animal cruelty and everything as well, that I just don't want to be part of, and I don't want my time on this planet to be impacting so many animals and all the cruelty that goes around that and everything else. So I'm not saying it's the absolute optimum diet for everyone or anyone. In fact, you have to find what's right for you, but for me it's the right decision at the moment. So.
Okay, thank you. John Cassidy wants to know, what was your chosen source of fluids nutrition for the event, particularly this weekend, and did that vary for each runner?
We had some support from Too Pure, a distributor in the UK. So they provided us with some nutrition. We had mule bars and honey stinger stuff, which was great. I personally, I take some Unived fluids, which is a company I've worked with for a couple of years. It's a good friend of mine in India, and he's got a vegan sports nutrition company. So I've been using that in racing for the last few years, which has been really good for me. Yeah. So individually people could do what they wanted, but we were fortunate to be supported in Scotland by a great company too. So. And
I think that was one of the challenges, wasn't it, Paul, because people actually rinsed themselves 40 minutes, 50 minutes, an hour, and then had a rest probably for 3 or 4 hours maybe, and then had to go again. So what they did in that time was probably quite important, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was tough, and I'm just, none of us are used to doing that, you know. We'll do hard training sessions and tempo stuff and whatever, which might be a similar distance, but we're not.
You wouldn't have a 3 hour interval, would you?
we're not sitting down for a couple of hours and then getting back out, or driving for an hour, sitting about, trying to have something to eat and then getting back out again. So that was definitely more challenging than we probably expected.
Jan Hosberg wants to know, says no big deal, but what was the reason for it being all men for this mammoth occasion, as there are some incredible female athletes out and about as well?
I suspected this question would come up at some point, and it's come up before. I agree there are some phenomenal female athletes out there. I don't have any question about that. I work with some phenomenal female athletes and they're incredible. For this, I had it in my head we would have 8 runners. We wanted to run 24 hours, and at the moment I don't think there are many female runners in Scotland who can do that, who are running ultras at the moment and fit and able to do that at the moment. So that was the only reason.
And were they all part of your team, as it were? All people that you coach? So it's a smaller pool to pick from.
It's not like we can phone up, you know, Courtney DeWalter or whatever and say, oh, do you fancy coming over, you know? And there are some amazing athletes in Scotland and the UK. I'm not denying that at all, female athletes. So
no, I think it was no big deal. It was just, I think he was just interested in what the thought process.
I mean, we did have a discussion about we could have opened it up to be bigger. We could have had 25 athletes running if we wanted to, but it changes what it is we were trying to do, and it changes the story, and not everybody's running an ultra, and we're ultra runners ultimately, so we wanted to try and achieve that distance as well, and that was the reason. And 24 hours is ambitious, and you know, we talked about, you know, 7:30 pace, whatever average, but so on the flat sections you've got to be well above that, you know, because you have to account for all the ascent as well. So yeah, that was the reason.
Yeah. Okay. Thomas Gray says, was there a reason you started at 4? Why not perhaps 7 a.m. or 1 o'clock like the West Highland Way race? Now you mentioned a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really just we wanted people to follow the race, and we wanted to reach as many people as possible, so it felt like the kind of right time to do it really on a Friday. Not necessarily coming out, but we knew people would follow over the weekend, and then people might want to come along to the end, so it felt better trying to end in the early or late afternoon.
And I think it did work. There must have been at least 30 or 40 at the finish there. It was a really nice atmosphere. We were there every few minutes waiting for you to come in. And it was great. It was real anticipation. You could see people just wandering past, wondering what was going on. I think.
I know. I thought we were finishing at the little monument thing.
Oh, did you?
Because there was like 4 or 5 people standing there, so we were done. So I kind of stopped and walked, and they're like, "No, you need to go on." So I had no idea there was so many people there until I started going down the steps, and you can see them at the other side of the bridge. So.
Yeah, just before you came, there was a couple of people who just walked through, and they were getting a big cheer as well.
Nice.
It was quite good. Ian Minty says, amazing running and such extreme effort and teamwork from all 8 runners. I looked on in awe at how you all buried yourselves to claw back the time over the last quarter. What technical conclusions have you drawn from your 24 hours on the West Highland Way?
There are some things we'd probably change or be more aware of, which I probably won't share all of them, but we'd definitely spend a little bit more time on the plan and really looking into who would be strongest on each section, going with the strengths as a runner ultimately. I think we could probably do some work about that, but it's not as straightforward as that. I can't just pick people and say you're going to do that section, you're going to do that section, because people need to get from their work and everything else. It's not as straightforward as that. And maybe some people were running one section, then they had a break for an hour and then doing the other. Maybe we would try and change the rest periods, but it's actually more complicated than people can imagine. To get 8 people to run 192 miles and try and work out.
Because each of the legs are the different distances, aren't they? Sort of different sections. And you've also got the long one really from Rowadennan to Benglas. You can't really split that up, can you? Because there's no way you'd get round.
Yeah. So that was the reason why we had to run that with 2 runners. We were just so worried about if something goes wrong there, you're kind of exposed, and it'd take a while to get somebody around there, So we ran that twice with 2 runners just to make sure that it was going to be okay. So some things we would take into doing it again, definitely from a technical side of things, but a lot went right on the day,
definitely.
To get that close.
Yeah, you definitely got more right than wrong, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely, and with no major mishaps with somebody not being at their starting point. Or
that would be awful.
Like or like at one point I think somebody handed over the belt and we just assumed that the tracker, like the zip had come right open, and we could have lost the tracker. Anything could have happened, So none of that did, fortunately. So a lot went right.
Erica Clarkson says, hello to Paul. Could you tell us how it felt to generate so much support on social media? Did the Endeavour team feel the love?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, like we've been overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed, 3 days out from the event, to be honest. Nobody could believe the response we were getting and the positivity we were getting back from people. And like I said before, it was as important to me to get somebody to share a message or comment than it was to get a £5 donation as well. So we absolutely felt the love from everyone, and on the day as well. And even though it was quite fast paced on the day, you're back in your car, and I actually spent a lot of it on my own because I never had a crew for me, and some of us didn't have individual crews, so you're driving in between and you're trying to keep up to date with what's happening, and but you could still get some of the messages through sometimes. And then the top half of the course you don't get the same kind of signal, and it disappears for a while, and
then your phone's going mad, is it?
No, exactly. All those messages, but we've such a strong community here, and it was amazing to see it like working at its best. It was incredible, and it's still there, and it's still working, and we're still getting messages, and we're still
going up.
Exactly, so it's been amazing to be part of.
Murdo McEwen says, might you have another go and 7 or more, and try and go for 7 or more minutes quicker? But you've said that you haven't written it off. Maybe you.
I think with the impact that we've had, and like I said, it wasn't so much about the timings, but we're certainly all motivated to go back potentially and to beat that time, and yourself, when you speak to people immediately after a big event, often it's, I'm not going back to that again, and it's a month later they're saying, oh yeah, I'm quite happy to go back. But even when we finished, even in the pub afterwards, people were saying, right, we need to go back and do that again. Right. The runners were, so
unfinished business.
So yeah, potentially. I think we'll be back, and I think now that people had seen what happened on the day, I think even more people would want to be involved. I think potentially. So it could be something very positive, I think.
Has it got the potential to actually be a race, do you think? You know, have several teams.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we might lose something in that. Maybe, but I we'll think about it over the next few months. We've got
Okay, so watch this race.
Yeah.
James Stewart says, tell Paul I'm proud to run alongside him. A true honour. And I'm sure the whole team feel that, and everyone was involved. Stephen Dunlop says, ask Paul to do more YouTube videos, please. His Western States first and second were awesome, inspirational stuff. And I know that's something you've done quite a bit, isn't it? Yeah,
I've got a load of stuff there ready to go, or not quite ready to go, so that's been my issue. It's just I would love to do more, and I shoot a lot. I film a lot of stuff from my travels, and I've got so much stuff backing up there. If you've seen any of the recent ones, you'll know I'm trying to go back to what's happened this year, earlier in the year. It's really a time thing. See, when you're training hard for races, and my weekends are a long run, and then I'm working the rest of the weekend and working on a Monday, and it's really hard to fit the time in. I would love to do more. I'd love to get some support with editing and whatever, but just, you know what it's like, a short edit of a 5-minute video can take you days to pull all the footage together and try and create some kind of story out of it. And I'm really into trying not to just put content up, but have a story behind it that people can follow, because that's when people get engaged. But thanks for your message. I really appreciate it. Like, if somebody likes my videos, I'm going to do more. Thank you. It helps.
And it's a great question to finish. Julia Clark says, what was the most unexpected thing you've learned from the Endeavour experience?
I was aware of the great community we have in Scotland around ultra running. Probably first, I've always been aware of it. There's always been a pretty positive community, but sometimes the competition makes it less so in some ways, because people want to do well, and if you're racing hard and stuff, and there's always that competitive edge. But like I mentioned before, I had a tough time the start of this year, and then we put on our first Pyllon experience training camp, and that was in early March. And at that time I was feeling really kind of low, and I wasn't desperate to be around other people, just because I was in not a good space ultimately. But I have a good team around me, and we're like, we've committed to this event and we're going to do it, and it's going to be great, and we need you to be there, and everything's going to be excellent. And I turned up there, and I went in with the attitude that I want to put on a great event and I don't want to mess it up, and that was it. I wasn't thinking about myself and what I might get from the event, but I went there, and anybody who was there, I think we just had an incredible experience. We just had, whatever it was, 20 odd people together, and it was just so supportive and so amazing, and people were really open and talking about how they felt about running, and we were all being very open and honest, and we had great runs, and we sat and we ate together, and we had great fun, and we all came out of that, the people that had organised it, and we were just blown away by what happened. It was like, we just did not expect to feel this way about a camp that we had put on. And at that point I really realised that the strength in what we do is around community and connecting with people and having those human connections. So I think that kind of changed me, to be honest, and Endeavour just went to another level almost. I knew people would get involved and people would support us, but yeah, it was, the last couple of weeks have been incredible and as valuable to me as running at Western States or anything else. So, yeah, I would hope we can do more and bring more people together and doing good things and helping each other to be better humans ultimately. So yeah.
Great, great answer. Yeah, and thank you so much for tonight. I thought, when I saw you on Saturday, I thought it'd be so good just to, if we can, just to get together and record some stuff. And because I know so many people are interested in the story and wanted to see how it went. So thanks for giving your time tonight.
No bother at all, thanks.
Hope you hope you get some sort of rest over Christmas from your your coaching, and all the best for next year as well.
Thank you very much.
So,
thank you too.
Great.
Thanks.